Hello and welcome to the Franchise Tag College Show Week 8. I am your host, Andrew, and joined as always by Alex. Alex, lots of great games in Week 7. We're going to cover some of them. You got to do some media for us down in the real NFL, but what was your take on Week 7 as a whole?
It was disappointing for me, obviously, because USC threw away a big lead against Penn State and managed to drag out an overtime loss, which has essentially done us in for the season. Our playoff aspirations are pretty much gone there now. But let's forget about USC, because there were some really exciting games going on this weekend, some big games as well. Some that I think we sort of knew which way they were going to go, and some that are a bit surprising, especially at the games that we're gonna focus on and talk about. I think a couple of them were a lot closer than we expected, and one of them wasn't.
I mean, it must be frustrating now. I know I've listened to a few podcasts and things, and it must be very, very frustrating as a fan to be told that you're the best 3-3 team in football and you won't make the playoffs.
Yeah, it is. USC, they are good. They should be good. They could be good, but they have a very good knack at the moment of throwing away the game with conceding a last-second score and just, I don't know.
Well, Lincoln Riley was interviewed, wasn't he, in the week, and he said, it's a couple of plays here and there, and we could have been 6-0. So and that really is where they're at the moment. But surely you've got to take away from this that has the performance been better than? Would you say they're overachieving currently of where they're at still, though?
I don't know if they're overachieving. I think they're underachieving with the talent that they got and the improvements that they made on defense. They should be winning some of these games. I suppose if you had the dream combination of last season's offense with this season's defense, then they'd be winning all the games and that. But that's not to say that our offense this year has played badly. They've been quite efficient.
It's been good.
And Miller Moss has had some amazing games, and then like there were a few like the ones against Minnesota and that one. It's just a bit like, oh, this can't get quite going to go in. But there we go.
Well, we'll move on to some other games. The first one up, we'll get this one out the way because it wasn't the exciting thriller that maybe had been in the past, and that was Texas versus at Oklahoma in the Red River rivalry. Texas winning 34-3. A bit of a blowout, Texas great on offense, great on defense. I know they struggled getting going. Quinn Ewers, back from injury after missing 2 weeks, took a little bit of time to get into the game. But overall, solid performance, and Oklahoma looked absolutely awful again.
Yeah. I mean, I said before the game that this is the sort of rivalry match where both team brings the goods. Unfortunately, it's only Texas that's delivered this time. And Oklahoma absolutely left their goods at home. There's big question marks now around Michael Hawkins at quarterback. I think there's been some conversation about maybe reverting back to
I said this in the first place, didn't I? I said keep Jackson Arnold. I said I wouldn't change it. I don't think he was the problem.
No, and obviously maybe not because they couldn't get anything against Texas. I mean, I like Texas, and I think they're probably the most one of, if not the most well-rounded team in college football at the moment. But Oklahoma should have done a bit better than that. But then this is saying Venables, isn't the head coach of Oklahoma. He struggles in this rivalry match because this is the second out of 3 recent Red River games where they've scored 3 or less points because they were shut out 2 years ago by Texas as well. So it seems like Texas has got a bit of a hold over them in this one at the moment.
But a big fall from glory, isn't it? Because obviously they used to be such a dominant team over the years, and now to go into that and just get blown out by Texas like that, it's not great. So I think they're a team that have got their defense. Obviously, we mentioned that last week is fantastic, but that offense just looks terrible. So you think it's definitely game over for them for this season.
Yeah.
What do you think they need to do next year? Do you think they need to tear it all apart and start again, or do you think there is something to build on? I mean, I haven't seen anything really I'd want to build on.
No, not really. There's not much good. I mean, the defense was good for a bit, but even that's just.
It's tough to play in Texas, though. But we'll talk about Texas later on in the show. I didn't want to dive too much into them as they've got a big game coming up this weekend. So we'll move on to two of the better games. Moving on to my Ohio State Buckeyes versus Oregon. It was the 2 versus 3 matchup. You know, we've already had the Bama versus Georgia matchup that was an insane game. It was so good. And this one lived up to the hype as well. This is what we want in college football. We want games like this. You know, it ended 32-31, and it was an absolutely fantastic game. It was a great game. I thought both teams played well. I thought Ohio's offense, I thought Will Howard had a nice game. I thought he played good. I was worried about him prior to it, but he did play well. They played consistently. He moved the ball efficiently. But I think this game came down for me to a battle between the head coaches, and I think Dan Lanning has proved his worth of him being one of the top coaches in football now, and Ryan Day again struggling against top 5 opponents. So what's your thoughts on it? Because I'm probably a bit biased, although I have taken a message.
Like I said, Ryan Day has struggled against top 5 ranked opponents, and it seems to, I don't want to say choke in these big games, because they didn't.
They choked.
No. Do you say they did choke in because this game?
No, I thought they played. I think, you know, you got to remember, we said this before the game. It was at Oregon. Eugene's such a hard place to go to. It's such a hard place to play. If this was a reverse fixture and it was at Ohio, I think Ohio would have won it. I think that really does play into the factor. You know, they were ahead most of the game. They had their chances, but I think that at home does matter.
It does help. This was like a ridiculously close game. Like, it's almost a completely even game. I know, like, the box score doesn't tell the whole story, but if you just look through the stats from that game, it's almost completely equal. Howard and Gabriel both threw 300 and odd yards. They both had 2 touchdowns. Rushing, both teams were nearly around 150 yards rushing each. Receiving, they were both over 300 yards each. And it just came down to 1 point and a few seconds running off the clock.
That whole last drive at the end, really, for me, this is the thing. A lot of people are going to say, you know, Will Howard had the dropped snap and on 3rd down, and then obviously sliding to run the clock out. But that whole last drive had a category of errors on it. We got into field goal range. I don't know. It just didn't really happen for us. So we were there. We had the chance, and it slipped.
Yeah. I know that there were some sour Buckeye fans saying there should have been a second left on the clock, wasn't there? Because he was down. But what do you think about Dan Danning's tactical use of a 12th man on the field to run off those a few seconds?
It's genius. You know, this is what I mean. The guy is separating himself from some of the other big names and putting himself up there with Kirby Smart and Steve Sarkisian and people like that that are in the game at the moment. He's putting himself up there with them because that's not allowed in the NFL. There's a rule in the NFL, isn't there, that prevents teams from doing that. So to have that knowledge and know that you can do it.
What was that? Is that the one, like the Belichick rule when he was linked to the Patriots when he was taking?
Oh, yeah, well, they kept taking penalties, didn't they?
Yeah. Is that linked to that one? I know they changed the rules after that.
Yeah.
It's very devious and very clever. It's definitely more gamesmanship than sportsmanship, but it worked. They conceded that penalty for the 12th man and ran precious seconds off the clock, because those seconds would have been enough for Will Howard to get down and maybe get that field goal attempt off.
Yeah,
there you go. But both teams still look very good, and they're both very much still in playoff contention.
Yeah, I don't think this is it. Like in previous years, one loss, you're out. Last year, Ohio lost one game to a top 5 ranked opponent in Michigan, and that season over. That it's so harsh. But yeah, this doesn't mean it's over for them now. They can win out and both qualify. I do think there were the tactics wise. I thought maybe Ohio was shocked that Dylan Gabriel played a different type of game to what he usually does. He had those big explosive plays, which, we don't always see from him. But you've got to say, though, we said the O-line was better. We said they'd get protection, and they did. We had, I think we had 5 pressures, no sacks. But before the season started, everyone was saying Oregon is the most explosive offense in football. Georgia is the strongest defense in football, and Ohio is probably the most strongest roster. And then when the season started, Oregon came out and they didn't look like that. But I think we're now finally seeing how good that offense actually is. I thought Evan Stewart and Tez Johnson and Terrence Ferguson were all fantastic. And you've already mentioned James on the ground as well, but they are going to beat teams with this offense, aren't
they? Yeah, absolutely. I think Dylan Gabriel looked absolutely locked in this one. No, I don't think there was any real mistakes from him this game. And I thought
it was absolutely fantastic. I thought it was a near perfect game from him. Again, like I said, I saw more from him in that one game than I usually see from him in the whole style of the way he plays, and he produced the goods when he needed to. So,
I mean, that's what we were expecting from him at the start of the season when he came in top of the Heisman favourites list, and those early games, I think it took a little bit of time to settle, and get used to that style of play. But also, they've adapted the game plan around him, I think, to highlight their strengths and just at the right time. Now that they're playing the big boy Big Ten teams rather than.
What have they only got Penn State left to play? Let's have a quick look.
Yeah,
I've got it.
Okay.
So they've got Illinois, Michigan. They've got Illinois and Michigan. They haven't even got Penn State to play. We've got Penn State to play. So very easy to win out for Oregon now. Purdue, Illinois, Michigan, Maryland, Wisconsin, Washington.
I said, yeah. Maryland, though. Michigan are a team that can give other teams trouble.
Yeah, well, we don't know. Michigan's going to be a whole new team going forward now with new quarterback and new style of play. So, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. And Illinois are a team. I don't think they're a team to be underestimated. They're playing up to opponents at the moment, and they're playing above their expected level. So maybe they'll give them a bit of a ride.
With that said, he is back in the conversation of Heisman. He's now the second favorite. Now, I will put to you, if he does win out, I think the people who vote and go forward for this would rather a Big Ten quarterback that's won the season win it than a Boise State running back winning the trophy, because they'll claim that they haven't played anyone.
Even though it's a Boise State running back who's averaging like 9.9 yards a carry.
It's just where he's from. I think they won't want someone from a smaller school winning it, and they'll say bigger school is better play. So he's put himself back in the running for this.
But I mean, there's no other running backs in any division, any conference that are putting up those sort of numbers. Like he's producing the first down per play. He's doing like 250 yards per game. It's just like, it's like if he just from pure production, then he should win it really. But there we go.
I don't think anyone will argue that he's probably the best offensive player in football at the moment, isn't he? Yeah. So I don't think that's the argument. I think it's just the fact that in the school, I think the people voting won't see that as an accolade for him. But hey ho. That's that. We move on to our next game. I said to you, this game was the hardest one I've had to call all year. I said I was torn between head and heart, and it ended in overtime, 29-26 to LSU. That was the Ole Miss LSU game. LSU were never in the lead at any point of this game until the touchdown in overtime. With 36 seconds left in the game, Ole Miss was 7 points up, and then a fourth and 5 on the 23-yard line. They got the touchdown to take it to overtime. Oh, this is heartbreaking for Ole Miss. What's your take on this game?
Yeah, I picked Ole Miss, didn't I? We both picked Ole Miss. Yeah, we were wrong, but not very wrong. I mean, it was a close game.
It was what we thought it was going to be.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's like LSU are a team that seem to be growing into quite a decent team. The start of the season, I mean, obviously the loss to USC, which was a close game, but that sort of set the tone for the early part of the season, thinking, oh, maybe they're not a great team. They're a mid-table sort of team, but they're steadily improving, climbing their way up the rankings. They're like, what are they ranked now, like 11th or something?
No, I think Tennessee are 11th.
I just picked that number out of my head, and then I think I know they're sort of in the mid-range of the top 25. 13th, there we go. But yeah, so they're certainly clawing up there. I mean, they're not gonna. I don't think they're there yet to challenge any of the big contenders. But yeah, at home, even against a team like Ole Miss that was vaunted as quite
all in, aren't they? All in.
Yeah,
they've been super explosive on offense. They hold all the stats. I think Jackson Dart holds the quarterback stats, and Trey Harris holds the wide receiver stats. So,
yeah, because he had a 100-yard game. Two of their receivers had over 100-yard games. They had over 100 yards rushing for Bentley. They're a dangerous team that can put up the numbers, but it's just I think Garrett Nussmeier, the LSU quarterback, sort of really grew into this game as it went on, and showed that he can see these games out.
He can see them out. He can come back from behind. He can complete those clutch passes on fourth down. I think he's doing a lot to get his name into the conversation for a late round, first round, early round, second round in the draft. I think he's going to climb up boards after performances like this.
Yeah.
And like I said, they're 5-1 now. They're 2-0 in the conference. They've got some tough games left to play, though, haven't they? But they've got, well, I don't know. They've got Texas A&M, who we both spoke about sneaking around.
Yeah, that's not to be sniffed at.
And they've got Alabama, which can't defend at the moment, and LSU can definitely score. So I think it's going to be interesting for LSU. They could be in that conversation by the end of the season in the playoffs. They can't lose any more, I don't think, especially against Texas A&M and Alabama. They've also got Oklahoma, but that's not.
Yep, but yeah,
it's a nothing game now. Ole Miss, on the other hand, now 5-2 and 1-2 in the conference. Now, this Ole Miss for me before the season started were a lock for the playoffs. Do you think that this is now an uphill battle for them, and they might be one of these big teams to miss out on the playoffs?
Yeah, I think they're going to have to win out. If they're obviously not going to get in it as the league winners.
They've got Georgia. That's to win out. They've got to beat Oklahoma, Arkansas, Georgia, Florida, and Mississippi State. So not easy games. Arkansas are never easy to play.
No.
And then they've got to win that Georgia game, which then puts Georgia in a bit of a sticky situation as well.
Yeah, but I think even getting in with the other slots of the at-large places outside of the conference winners, because they're going to have to compete with Texas, Georgia, and Alabama for one of those spots, and teams like LSU, if they continue to work their way up the table. So yeah, I think this is probably it for Ole Miss. this season. I'm being pessimistic.
Well, I think that might be it for Ole Miss. Full stop. Like I said, I think they went all in this year. There's a lot of that players going to be going into the draft. And I did say, will Lane Kiffin stay there at the end of the year if the Florida job is available for him? I think that could be one he's got his eye on.
Yeah.
Should we talk week 8 games then?
Yeah, go on then.
There's some big games.
There's not much on in week 8.
Right. First up, well, we struggled picking them because there's the 3 games that you're probably supposed to cover. And then I said to you, I think there's 2 others that probably need a bit of light. Which one should we go for? So we'll see what we pick for that last one. But the first one up is Alabama at Tennessee, the number 7 seed against the number 11 seed. They're both 5-1. Alabama are the 3-point favorites in this game. I'll let you go first. Take it away.
Yeah, Tennessee have come down quite a bit in people's views recently, especially with the loss to Arkansas, and then the not so convincing win over Florida last week. So I think we're starting to see not cracks, but like there's been some criticism of the quarterback Nico. I am a Labour.
You've left it for me to pronounce every single.
Yeah, I was trying to bring it back to you. But, yeah, so like he's not looked quite as strong over the past couple of weeks when they've been playing teams with better defenses. But they pulled it out against Florida, which is a team they usually lose against.
Yeah, we said this. We said that they should beat them comfortable because obviously the Gators have been pretty poor this year. But when it comes down to the fact that it's got a bit of history about this game and it usually is close, I think you have got to take that into consideration. But I did say to you also, I really need to see Nico play well in this game because he'd struggled the last 2 games, and I'd say he did struggle again. Only completed 16 of 26, 169 yards, no touchdowns, and 1 interception. He came out the gates really strong, looked fantastic. I'm not sure whether it's the loss that's wobbled him or what, but he's not looking. It looks like he's holding on to the ball a bit too long and not making decisions quick enough.
I know. Maybe it is the level of competition has stepped up slightly in this part of the season when he's had a run of SEC opponents in Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Florida. So the pressure's really on. But and again, Alabama is now coming up against one of the biggest names in the conference. But like you said, they have been a bit leaky on defense. Have been giving up points. I know we talked last week after the loss to Vanderbilt. We expected a big bounce back game that they were going to come out all guns blazing, and they had a tough time against South Carolina, didn't they?
They were behind, weren't they? They were behind they had to come back and win that game. I think they were behind in the 4th quarter, and I think I'm sure didn't South Carolina have a chance at the 2-point conversion at the end of the game to tie it up? 25-27. Yeah, they had a chance at the 2-point conversion to tie that game. So way too close for my likings. They've conceded 99 points in the last 3 games now. Alabama have. So yeah, Bama's offense is good. Can't take that away from them. Their offense. Jalen Milroe is playing really good football, but equally, Tennessee's defense looks really, really good. So I think this game really, really comes down to Nico in this one. I think, it's a good matchup, Bama's offense versus Tennessee's defense. So your next matchup is Alabama's poor defense against Nico Iamaleava, who has struggled. So you're asking if he can step up, they could win this one. But it's a lot of pressure for a young kid struggling.
Yeah, it's a lot. At least they're at home.
They're at home.
They have the crowd noise behind them. and they'll be giving it some, but it is against the Tide. So I don't know. This will be, I think, the true test to see whether Tennessee are a legit game. Even if they lose, if they keep it close, if they cover the, I don't know what the spread is on this game.
3 points.
That's right, you said that. They cover the spread for 3 points, and yeah, they could look like a contender. But I don't know. I'm worried for them that the occasion of playing at Alabama is going to be slightly too big. And yeah,
I think that Milroe will be able to step up, and that might be enough to be strong enough to beat Tennessee's really, really strong defense. So I would like to see Tennessee win this one, but I think Bama should win it, and they might win it by more than the 3. They might win it by more than the 3 spread. If Milroe managed to go off on one. So
I think as well, Kalen DeBoer is more likely to find a way to win this one. Then there's been quite a few question marks now around Haiku. So yeah, whether he's the right guy for Tennessee as well. I think if we're going to choose picks, I think I would lean towards Alabama and DeBoer for this one. I'm to the moment pick. I'm picking Alabama.
I'm going with Bama as well. Now, the biggest game of the week is Georgia at Texas, the number 5 against the number 1. Texas has looked good on O-line. They've looked good on D-line. They've looked good at run game. They've looked good at quarterback. Georgia have looked good on D. And that's it I've got for them. What's your take on this one?
I think this one is potentially the conference championship decider. We could see them both again in the conference championship match, but I think if Texas carry on their strong one, if Texas win this one, then I think there's very little chance that they don't win the conference. And then that'll put Georgia at 5-2.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That puts them at 5-2. That puts them in danger.
Yeah, and they could knock them right down.
That's what I said to you. Texas A&M might only lose to Texas in the last game of the season. Might.
Hang on, but Texas A&M have already got a loss. How many losses?
They've got one. They've got one loss.
Oh, okay. So that if Georgia loses,
no losses in the
that allows. No divisional losses. So that allows other teams, especially in Alabama, if they knock off Tennessee and keep down to their one loss against bloody Vanderbilt, that keeps them in contention for the championship game. I don't know. Yeah, I think
if Georgia loses this,
this is if
conference losses.
Yeah, if Texas win this, I wouldn't be shocked if they obviously win the championship game and make a very deep playoff one, even national championship contenders. I like this Texas team a lot. There's very few weaknesses, like you said. Their offense is clicking. Whoever's at quarterback at the moment, Ewers came back in from injury.
It doesn't matter.
As good as he was. Arch Manning's great if he has to step in. Pass game strong, run game strong, defense is really strong. So, but Georgia are one of those teams that they do find ways to win. They're a team that knows how to win.
Well, we saw it against Alabama, didn't we? They struggled, then they recalibrated and got together, and then found a way to get back in it and get in the lead. So they're a team that on the fly can figure things out quickly against strong teams and produce the goods.
Yeah, they can convert in important situations. That game against Alabama, whilst Carson Beck didn't look brilliant, especially to begin with, he was consistently converting on the 3rd and 4th downs when they really needed it. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a fairly close game because I think Georgia will give them as good as they can, but I just think this Texas team is just too too well rounded at the moment.
Yeah, I can't see a weakness on it either. Like I said, I listed it before we started the game. They're good at everything, and they've got a great head coach. I was going to say, before the season started, we thought Carson Beck, probably the solid number one pick in the draft at quarterback, probably going to play really well. We thought Georgia were going to have a chance at winning the national championship. What's your feeling on Carson Beck at the minute? Do you think he's played himself out of that number one pick now, and he seems to have disappeared behind 3 or 4 other guys now, or do you think we might have judged him too early on that one couple of struggling performances?
Possibly. I mean, it is a couple of struggling performances, but they're still winning performances, apart from Alabama. He is a good, consistent quarterback.
He was when they had Bowers and McConkey. I don't think
he was then, but it's still not like that. I mean, like, again, going back to just like pure stats, he's putting up still quite good numbers. He's got 1,800 yards in the season and 15 touchdowns to his 5 interceptions. But I mean, he's not the most exciting quarterback ever.
Bit thin.
But sorry.
He's a bit thin as well, isn't he? He doesn't look imposing to go into the NFL.
You can say that, but so does Jaden Daniels.
Yeah,
and well, he's doing all right for now. We'll see, but yeah, he's doing okay. Yeah, I think he'll still be up there. He may not be a number, but who's going to jump ahead of him in it's number 1 or 2?
I think Shedeur Sanders is.
Yeah, I know you're very high on Shedeur.
I think he's the clear number 1 for me. I think, despite the fact the team he's on, he looks fantastic and his accuracy is unbelievable. And he's playing really high-level football for a team that's a bit disruptive and disorientating in its game.
Yeah, I mean, he had a very good game this week, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
I completely forgotten who they played, but I know he played well.
They play
Kansas State.
Kansas State, but
they lost. Yeah, they play Kansas State. Yeah, yeah. He's a much more exciting quarterback to watch because obviously he can make the big throws and he can run it and he can just do everything behind a very leaky O-line.
I also think Cam Ward's putting up a good conversation for him.
About Cam Ward, I do keep forgetting about Cam Ward.
I mean,
I do like him a lot.
The guy is literally proving that no matter how bad his defense is, he will put the team on his back and win because he's done it 2 weeks on the bounce now where they should have lost to teams that they shouldn't even be in the conversation with. And he's the one that's single-handedly pulling them out of the shit and winning games. So,
yeah. So would you, if your team needed your team does need a quarterback, in the Giants, would you rather have
Shedeur? I'd rather Shedeur.
I know you'd rather have Shedeur. Would you rather have Carson Beck or Cam Ward? If Shedeur was already gone, number 1, and you've got like the number 2.
I think I'd rather have Cam Ward because I think Carson Beck might be similar to what we've got in Daniel Jones, but not even as he's not even as big, or his run game is probably not as good as Daniel Jones. He's not as. I do worry about that. Whereas Cam Ward's quite a big, meaty guy. I know he's only 6'2", but that's fine in this day and age. I think for them. I even think Jalen Milroe's playing well enough to stay, and I might take a punt on him as well over Carson Beck. But yeah, well, I mean, I don't think we're going to be in a position the way we're playing to get one of these top guys. Which
he decided to play well now.
We look like
we've got neighbours in, so we'll play some good football now.
No, the defense has stepped up. The O-line looks great. Shame we've lost Andrew Thomas for the season, but it is what it is. But that's NFL. We're not here for NFL.
There we go. We've gone off on the right tangent now.
One last topic on that game. Isaiah Bond might be out. He's day-to-day at the moment. Do you think that's going to have a big impact on the wide receiver for Texas, or do you think that they've got people waiting in the wings to step in?
No, I think they'll be all right.
It's a big loss.
It's a big loss. But, I mean, they can lean on the run.
Mm-hmm.
They got behind Ward anyway receiving. I mean, like, look at last week. Bond, sorry, I said Ward, Bond. Because Bond in that last game against Oklahoma, he only had 5 yards, and we had players like Gunnar Helm had 91, Wingo,
look good,
and DeAndre Moore all saw the ball a bit more. So, I mean, last week he was. I mean, it's against Oklahoma, and it's not going to be against Georgia, but he wasn't. He only had, how many targets did he have? I can't see how many targets he had. But he only had 1 catch last week. So I think they'll just have to scheme around the other guys and play to their strengths. But I think they'll be all right.
And then last game, we should talk about Michigan versus Illinois. They're both ranked teams, 24 versus 22. I'm bored of talking about Michigan already. We spoke about them so much already this year. And Illinois, for me, it's not the flashiest team to talk about. So we've skipped over that one. And we've gone for a game that, for a team that both of us, when I put it into the group, I thought they probably deserve a bit of airtime. And then you agreed with me. So I was quite happy that we've got this one. And that is UCF at Iowa State. Iowa now the number 9 seed. They're 6-0. They're 3-0 in the conference. They're a 13.5-point favorite in this game. Yes, Iowa. Well, UCF are 3-3. They started off 3-0. It was all going well, and then they had that loss, and it seems to have all tumbled downhill since then. Iowa are now in a 3-way tie in the Big 12. They're unbeaten through 6 since 1938. This is a big port for them. Yeah. Take it away, mate.
Yeah. Both teams I haven't watched a lot of this season. But Iowa State is definitely a team I want to watch more of, especially as they're coming to Dublin next season, and it looks like that could be quite a tasty matchup. The old Farmageddon rivalry between them and Kansas State, but they're a team now that have put themselves right in contention for possibly winning the Big 12. It's not the flashiest style of football. They march their way slowly and consistently down the field, but they do it in a way that wins games. They had a very good win against West Virginia last week, which is not an easy team because they played in Virginia, so it's not an easy place to go and win games. But they went and they did it quite convincingly. Quarterback Rocco Becht. He's been absolutely solid. Again, it's not a team I've watched a lot, but it's a team I think I want to and I need to start paying more attention to, because they are a team that could have the goods and could be one that could get themselves right up there. Now that my early season favourite Oklahoma State have completely dropped off, then I think I'm gonna start looking at these guys and them and them and Kansas State and old BYU haven't flying under the radar with an undefeated season as well.
Yeah, BYU are. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're going to be. That's good. The 3 teams to watch at the top of the table in the Big 12. But
you can't see Arizona State holding on to their 5-1 record either. So,
but that's a surprising record they've got now, but they've looked good with it as well. Because last season in the Pac-12. Yeah, they started off, but they were like a complete meh team. But no, they're really going for Arizona State behind Dillingham, isn't it? The head coach. I think he's got a lot of passion for that team, and they're really buying into that. Anyway, we were talking about Iowa State and UCF. But I don't think this is going to be the most exciting game. Sorry, but I think
as I said, Iowa State are 13.5-point favourites in this game. I think that's largely down to the fact that UCF have had a bit of a carousel with their quarterbacks recently. KJ Jefferson got dropped. Then they brought in someone. I think they started playing a 17-year-old at quarterback, and then I think they've got someone else they've been playing in there as well. So I don't know whether they're going to go back to KJ Jefferson. I think maybe they should. I'm not out on him yet. But they have struggled with turnovers over there. They've had 7 turnovers in the last 3 losses. Just it doesn't seem to be going in the right direction for them, considering they started off so well in the season.
Yeah, they're quite good wins, especially against TCU, that close win. But then they're on a 3-game losing skid at the moment, aren't they? They haven't been completely. But I mean, they lost quite heavily to Colorado. The games against Florida and Cincinnati weren't complete blowouts. I mean, it was quite close against Cincinnati, 19-13 last week. But is that a team they should be beating? Maybe. I don't know. But they're a team that can be exciting and quite feisty. They'll be on the road.
Colston's the young 17-year-old quarterback that they've got.
Did he just come in for last game? Is he going to be? Is he? So Jefferson's still the starter, isn't he? Is he still?
Well, they dropped Jefferson, didn't they? He's not injured. They dropped him, but they've got Curry Brown as well, haven't they? Tends to run quite a lot. I don't know. It's I would hope that they go back to KJ Jefferson, because I don't think he's played bad to be dropped completely. I think it's a bit odd. Back to Iowa State.
Mm-hmm.
I think they've got 2 really nice wide receivers, Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins. Both look very tasty. They've been putting up some numbers as a bit of a tandem, haven't they?
Yeah, again, they had a big game last week. Higgins had 102, Noel 77, and the score. So yeah, they're players to watch.
2 to watch out for. I've got my eye on both of them now. I didn't know they had 2 superstars there.
I know. I don't know why Iowa State's one of these teams that we don't pay that much attention to, but they can be good, and they do produce some really good players. Obviously, Purdy is the obvious one. David Montgomery.
Breece Hall was there as well, wasn't he?
Breece Hall, yeah.
They were. Purdy and Hall were there at the same time, weren't they?
Yeah, and I think David Montgomery was he Iowa State? But anyway, we digress again. Back to NFL.
I think Coach Campbell's doing a good job there. He's been there for quite a while now. He had that big season in 2020, I think, the COVID year. They had a good season then. I think they got to a New Year's 6 game, didn't they? So, he's doing a nice job. They've got a nice cornerback in Jatez Williams. Had 3 interceptions in the last 3 games. So, I think it's going to be a comfortable win for Iowa. And definitely, as you said, now you look into them a bit more. Now we've brought them to the table. Now we've got to have a little look and go back over a few of their games and see some of their players. There's a lot to like about them. There is a lot to like there.
Yeah, they've got a relatively easy run in as well for the end of the season, and that culminates in their match against Kansas State for the final game. So I think that's going to be a big one. Again, that could be a championship decider sort of thing. There we go. And again, it'd be good to watch this, give us an indication what it's going to look like next year in Dublin. Obviously, the teams look a bit different then. But it's a team. That's a game that I'm starting to look forward to more and more. When it was first announced, I thought, maybe. now these teams are both playing quite well. I'm thinking, this could be.
Well, we did say the Big 12 was going to be the most exciting division to watch, because they were all going to beat each other up, and it's anybody's game. It's looking like that as well, especially with the news of Cam Rising out again for the season. Did you know that there's talk that he can redshirt again because of his injury and come back again next season?
Because he's still eligible to redshirt, isn't he? So, but how many years is that? That been like his 8th year or something, isn't it?
Is it? I thought it was his 8th year, but I thought, is that right? But that is mental.
Yeah. But
I think he should probably give it up and go, do you know what? Maybe I should go into something else.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's not been great this season, has he?
It could have been. It's just
He
injured.
could have been, and he should have been, because he was very good not last year. He was out injured all of it, wasn't he?
Yeah.
The year before, he was
Every
good.
time he's been in and played, he's been good.
Yeah.
He could have been one of Utah's big names at quarterback, but just injured all the time. The other game that we could have talked about was Miami at Louisville.
Yeah.
Just thought I'd briefly mention it, and we won't go into it in too much depth. But number 6 seed Miami against Louisville. I think it's scheduled to be a quite close game. I looked at it and thought, Miami will win that one, but obviously the defense has been terrible. Just having a quick look at the spread. What's your thoughts on this game? Do you think it's one to keep an eye on because Louisville aren't a pushover, and Miami have struggled against lesser teams?
Yeah, I mean, Louisville, one of those teams that could and should be quite good. They kept it quite close in games. They did all right against Notre Dame. A possible surprising loss they had against SMU, and then they bounced back against Virginia last week in 24-20 win. But yeah, I think Miami
are 5-point favourites.
No, that probably sounds about right.
Yeah, I thought they were less than that. I thought it was like 3-point favourites. Maybe it's gone out a bit. I don't know. Maybe people saw that line and went, bang a load of money on that.
Yeah. I mean, Miami have been pushed. The game against Virginia Tech was close, and then the game against Cal 2 weeks ago. Was that? What was last week?
Last week.
Yeah, that was last week. Was really close, and possibly should have gone the other way if the officiating was a bit different.
It's officiating again, isn't it? Not been great this year.
But we'll see. It'll be in Louisville, so I don't know if the refs will be on Miami's side in that one or not. But
Miami have got Louisville, Florida State, Duke, Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, Syracuse.
Okay, so they could win out and go undefeated.
They could win out and undefeated. I mean, I said they go undefeated before the season started, but I thought the defense might be better than what it is. And now everybody's on the Clemson hype train. So, it's a bit of an odd one that they could go unbeaten and everyone think Clemson's better than them.
Yeah, they could do. But do you think they're favourites to win the ACC?
The just top of the thing, or to win the championship?
To win it all. Do you think
no, Clemson are the favourites now, I think.
Are they favourite? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, Clemson has just been, apart from their horrendous game against Georgia at the start of the season, they've just been blowing everybody out since. Their offense looks fantastic.
So do you peg that for our title game in the ACC then, Clemson, Miami?
Yeah, it's got to be, hasn't it? And then I wrote Clemson off at the start of the year and went, pre-season preview. I think Clemson have dropped behind Florida State and Miami. Yeah, that backfired. That's lasted long, didn't it? With FSU looking absolutely woeful. But hey ho, we live and we learn.
Yeah, absolutely do.
Is there any other game you've got your eye on this week? Do you know what? Probably one I think I should keep my eye on is Oklahoma State BYU. Mm-hmm.
Even though Oklahoma State haven't been brilliant, I think that'll be a good test for this BYU team, who looked very convincing last week against Arizona. But I think that'll be a nice game for them to show what they're all about. They're at home, so they should win this against the way Oklahoma State's playing. But again, as a team that I haven't really watched much of, and I think I shouldn't be watching, because they might just be legit. Because they've had some big wins, like Arizona last week, and they beat Kansas State really convincingly, 38-9. So I don't know. I just want to watch a bit more BYU. Really, that's my reason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've got my eye on a game because I've got a bet on it, and I've got it in my accumulator. LSU are playing Arkansas. What do you think the spread is on LSU versus Arkansas. What would you think the score might be?
I can tell what the score would be because you know I'm rubbish at spreads.
Well, you know how good LSU are. We've seen them play their record. Arkansas 4-2. They've lost to Texas A&M. They've lost to Oklahoma State.
This should be like a 27-14 sort of game.
Yeah.
What do you reckon?
I mean, I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
The points spread on this game is 1.5.
Bloody hell. Okay. Okay, so it's a 27-26.
Well, I really don't think it is. So it is in my accumulator because I'm not quite sure why they're only 1.5 point favourites against Arkansas. So they did beat Tennessee last week, didn't they? So
they did.
Yeah. But yeah, that's what I'm going to keep my eye on because I'm unsure of why it's like that. That's all we've got time for. Fingers crossed that your team has a win this week. You're Maryland, aren't you?
Are we Maryland? Yeah. Do you know what? I sort of buried my head in it last week after that loss to Penn State. Why are you on the bye this week?
Oh yeah. No.
Hang on. No, that's next week. I'm just making stuff up.
Yeah, you're away.
Away to Maryland.
Yeah,
that's a win. They should beat it. If they don't beat Maryland, then that's it.
It's a watchable game. It's a 9 p.m. game for us, so you can actually watch it.
It's a watchable game, but there will also be Texas Georgia on at 8:30, isn't it? Is that on at 8:30?
No, Texas Georgia's on is the 12th.
It's Alabama Tennessee's on at 8:30.
Yeah.
So I think more people will be tuning in. Yeah.
Well, that's all we've got time for. Alex, thanks for joining me again. As always, guys, keep it with the franchise tag, and we will see you again very soon.